Today, there was news that's likely making the suffering harder for the families and the entire community. A startling admission from the FBI just 6 weeks ago. A caller to their tip line warned them about the shooter and about his gun ownership, his desire to kill people, erratic behavior, as well as the potential of him conducting a school shooting. The FBI apparently did nothing about it. Joining us now is Mark Kelly. You, of course, remember he's the husband of former Arizona Congressman Gabby Giffords, who was critically wounded in a shooting in 2011. Then after the Sandy Hook school shooting, they started an organization to fight the gun violence epidemic. Captain Kelly joins me now from Arizona. Captain, I'm wondering, when you saw over the last 2 days so many of the young kids from that school coming out and being very vocal about what they want to see change in terms of gun laws in this country, something I don't think we've seen after a school shooting, so quickly after a school shooting, among the young people who suffered from the shooting. I'm wondering what you thought of what you heard and what you've seen over the last several days.
Well, Anderson, I can't recall having seen this before with young people of that age. It's kind of a unique circumstance. I mean, it was one of the most horrific mass shootings we've had in our country's history, and you have older teenagers having had experienced that. They were incredibly articulate. I remember seeing one young woman, I think her name was Isabella Gomez, speak after the president gave his remarks. And she, she had it spot on. She had it figured out. She noticed that there weren't a lot of solutions there. She had some ideas of her own. And I think what we're going to see here and I hope, over the weeks and months, that these kids, young adults, stay engaged, push their communities in the right direction, hold their elected leaders accountable. They're going to be voters here. A lot of them, some of them might be voters already, and that they vote on this issue and demand for change.
Do you worry that some may seize on the mistake by the FBI, which is clearly horrific and obviously going to be investigated, and blame this shooting solely on that rather than looking at any kind of legislation that could also have prevented it?
Well, there are certainly, people that are elected to Congress in Washington, D.C. that I'm sure you've got this figured out, that's probably going to happen. I was happy to see that the FBI, as such a professional organization, to own this. The fact that they missed it, they realized they missed it, they owned up to it. I'm sure there'll be an investigation. There'll probably be people held accountable, as there should be. But they didn't run away from it. We've seen a lot in government, especially recently, individuals, groups of people that have just not, owned mistakes and problems. So I'm glad that the FBI stood up and said that this was something that they missed, and I'm sure they're going to fix it. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. They're dealing with an incredible, difficult situation in our country with so many firearms and the ability for people that shouldn't have them to get their hands on them. It makes their job incredibly difficult. But somebody should be held accountable.
Clearly, there were mental health issues with this person who committed this mass murder, and a lot of people obviously have focused on that. Is that fair to focus on? Do you worry that that's focused on at the exclusion of focusing on guns as well? Does it have to be either or?
We have an incredibly high rate of gun violence in this country. Over 100,000 people are shot every year. 38,000 die from gunshot wounds. It's not for one single reason. There's not one button we can push or lever we can pull to fix this problem. Dangerous people getting a hold of firearms is an issue. We see that occasionally with these mass shootings. We need to address that. At the same time, the ability for felons, suspected terrorists, domestic abusers to get their hands on incredibly powerful weapons without a background check is just crazy. And the sad thing is about this entire situation is we know what works. We know that in the states that have stronger gun laws, there is significantly less gun violence. But the problem is we elect people to Congress who are supported with a lot of money from the corporate gun lobby, and it paralyzes them. They will, we saw it just in the last couple days. United States senators speaking on the floor of the U.S. Senate and on the floor of the House of Representatives that barely will acknowledge that we have a gun violence issue in this country.
Is there really a chance for change, though? I mean, look, after Newtown, there was so much talk of change, people saying enough is enough. After Las Vegas, there was talk of, bump stocks, which a lot of people hadn't even known about prior to the Las Vegas shooting. There seemed to be bipartisan support for that. Nothing came of it.
Well, we're holding elected leaders accountable across the country. We're getting people to vote on this issue. We've passed 200 pieces of legislation in 45 different states. Washington, D.C., admittedly, is incredibly difficult, but we are gradually changing the politics on this issue. If you look at the vote on the concealed carry reciprocity bill about a month ago in the House of Representatives, it passed, but there were a lot less Republicans that voted for it. And actually a lot more Republicans that voted against it than in 2012. And same thing on the Democratic side. A lot of Democrats who voted before it in 2012 did not vote for it in 2017. So we are shifting the politics, but the gun lobby's been at this a long time and have built an incredible amount of influence, but we really need people to support candidates that will try to fix a problem. It's a tough problem, but as a nation, we're pretty good at solving hard problems, Anderson. We sent people to the moon in the 1960s. I mean, we're pretty good at this. So, I've been at this now since the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, Gabby and I, and it's devastating to see these mass shootings. But we just have to hold people we elect to office accountable to do something. And I think these kids are going to make a difference.
Captain Mark Kelly, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Wish you the best. We're back in a moment.